Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome. Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. As always, here on this Tuesday, I see Justin Langford. My brother is tuned in. Alex Heil, Madison Duncan, Brendan M., Ethan K., Alex Mitchum, John Edwards, Xavier, Ben DeRosa, Travi, Austin Gregory, who's tuning in from Evans, Georgia. Shout out the CSRA. Appreciate each and every single one of you being locked in here on this Tuesday afternoon. Madison asks, how many days left till game day? There are 25 of those days, Madison, that we have left until another South Carolina kickoff. Cannot wait for it. Gamecocks, of course, taking on the North Carolina Tar Heels in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was just checking to make sure I didn't get ahead of myself. Was making sure I did not get ahead of myself here on this Tuesday. I was like, is it 26 or 25? It is 25 days until kick. So again, really excited to chat, guys. We continue along today. Got a packed show, tons to get into. Quick update. Today will be a 2-hour TDC instead of a 3-hour because talked to our good friend JC Sherbert this morning. He is having some technical issues. He will now join us tomorrow around 12:45 or so, and then we'll jump right in with Chris Marler at 1:15. So we're going to be double dipping on a Wednesday. Again, what that means is no guest today. So in our second hour, we will have no special guest. Instead, that second hour, we'll bump up the Q&A power hour. I want to hear from you, your questions, your comments, your calls, all that good stuff. I do see Bruin Nation in the comments there. I definitely want to get to everything from fall camp. I have not heard any of the news that Luke Doty is getting reps at wide receiver and that Sellers is QB2, Bruin Nation. This must be some new information that you are presenting to us. So again, make sure you bring that up to me in about an hour or so, and we'll talk all things fall camp, because the latest I saw, which was yesterday, Luke Doty was running with the twos with South Carolina. Either way, we'll get into all that much more. Like I mentioned, guys, hour number 2, our Q&A power hour. And of course, in this first hour, we have a ton to discuss, which I'm so glad, because after yesterday talking NIL and, recruiting and everything that happened over the weekend and conference realignment, we get back to football today as we continue our 2023 position unit preview series, as we're talking to Gamecocks offensive line heading into the 2023 season. Certainly a group that is going to shape the way we look at this 2023 season. So we'll spend the next 2 days talking offensive line. Then Thursday and Friday, we'll begin the defensive side of the football, beginning with the defensive line, of course. Going to be a lot of fun. Again, guys, thank you all so much. Appreciate you all tuning in, but a really fun morning on this side of things. Again, just kind of going through all of your questions. Those in the Big Cock Club Discord, thank you all so much in the TDC question channel. Looks like our guy Brendan M. is hard at work today. Austin Gregory, yes, Dowell Loggins played quarterback for Arkansas. He is an Arkansas alum. So that was one of the things, I think, when South Carolina hired Dowell Loggins, folks were saying, okay, if the Arkansas job were to open up, does he just consider going back? What have you? So anyways, just going through, let's see, going through some of the comments here, because we do have some fall camp intel. Maybe we could start there. Fall camp intel. I don't have it all in front of me, though. I don't have it in our notes. Luke Doty, it looks like. Hale McGranahan this morning. And we'll get more from JC Sherbert tomorrow, obviously, on fall camp, all fall camp intel, stuff like that. But apparently, Luke Doty was running with the wide receivers today, per Hale McGranahan on Inside the Gamecocks. So it sounds like he's still QB2, but he could have a bigger role than people are anticipating, playing receiver. He's done it before. I mean, Luke Doty did this before. Anyways. Yeah, indeed. I mean, listen, we all want to see Luke. Luke Doty is kind of like the Kerryon Joyner. I mean, really, truly, he's kind of like the Kerryon Joyner. It's one of those things where a guy that's a selfless Gamecock has stuck it out forever. Anyways, you'd love to see him get on the field in some capacity. Obviously, a kid who's a great athlete. We saw the spring game. You guys heard my reaction. I don't think he ever takes significant snaps for South Carolina ever again at the quarterback position in regards to, starting a game. But there are still ways he can help this football team. Again, it's the same way we talk about Dakereon Joyner. There are ways he can help this football team. I think certainly we agree that Luke Doty can be one of those guys as well. Either way, guys, again, all of that in the Q&A Power Hour we will get into in our second hour. Again, J.C. Sherbert will join us tomorrow, 12:45. Chris Marler, 1:15. We'll double dip with our guests on tomorrow's show. That being said, we continue the 2023 Position Unit Preview Series. A much maligned group heading into this 2023 football season, and a group that will undoubtedly shape and determine the success that South Carolina football will have this season. We're talking top storylines for the Gamecocks offensive line heading into this fall. And we start, guys, does new blood equate new results for a porous offensive front? And I'm going to read off the list of offensive linemen that will take the field this year for South Carolina. Jalen Nichols, Vershawn Lee, Ja'Kai Moore, Grayson Maines, Nick Gargiulo, Jackson Hughes, Tyshawn Wanamaker, Trey Jones, Nee Manziel, Sidney Fugard, John Darius Morgan, Ryan Brubaker, Kason Henry, Marquis Anderson, Mac Walters, Chase Swigert, Trovon Bowe, Tree Babalade, Jatavius Shivers, and Campbell Vanderveer. There are 20 total offensive linemen on this roster. And you look at what South Carolina loses from a season ago, losing second-team All-SEC right guard Jovan Gwynn, center Eric Douglas, right tackle Dylan Wanham. Also, of course, the injury of Jalen Nichols, which we'll get into more in just a second. But this is a group last year, even with all that experience, 130 or so starts they had returning in 2022. It did not equate to better results. Ironically enough, I saw a clip a couple of days ago that I posted from around this time last year talking about the offensive line. And I said, there's no way the offensive line can be worse than they were a season ago, referring to 2021. Were they worse? That's up for you to decide. But if they were better, it wasn't by much at all. In 2022, South Carolina's offensive front allowed 31 sacks and mustered up just 118.8 yards per game rushing, which ranked 105th nationally. You look at this group. We talked about this, guys, when we talked the full offensive preview, right? And you look at the offensive line. You've had multiple transfer portal additions, true freshmen, and we're going to break them down and get them more so here in just a second. But maybe it's a situation because I've referenced the number of starts returning a lot. South Carolina is returning 86 career starts on the offensive line. And unfortunately, you got to take a large chunk of that away because Jalen Nichols will most likely not see the field at all for South Carolina this season. But is it a situation where you brought in a bunch of new guys, and you know what? Maybe the guys you were playing, all due respect to them, were not all that good. I mean, the numbers would tell you that. Maybe it's an addition by subtraction situation to where some of these transfer portal guys having a new offensive line coach, just new blood within that room leads to new results. And certainly the Gamecocks need it because you think about this, South Carolina, an 8-win team last year, finishing outside of the top 100 running the football. And we've seen South Carolina offensively, even under Marcus Satterfield, but it doesn't matter who the OC has been. I mean, the offensive line, guys, I remember being in high school. I mean, I remember when I first, when I was 12 or 13 or 11 or 12 years old and I became a diehard fan and, remember Steve Spurrier coming to South Carolina. And I remember back then the offensive line being a question mark. Like it's a tale as old as time. Death taxes and South Carolina's offensive line being suspect. And Shane Beamer's working to fix that. What do you get out of this group? out of a new look group to a degree. I mentioned a new offensive line coach, guys. Lonnie Teasley will take over full-time as the Gamecocks offensive line coach after last year, serving in that role for the majority of the season. Of course, he was an analyst previously. Greg Atkins, who was the offensive line coach, dealt with those health issues early on. Thank goodness he's okay. And still on staff, by the way, because he's done an incredible job recruiting. But Lonnie Teasley takes over, and I'll say this. I thought you saw great improvement in the offensive line as the season progressed and once Teasley took over the reins of the offensive front. Was it great? No, it was not. But it wasn't the deficiency that we thought it was going to be through the first couple of games or so. Because I remember, guys, I remember vividly leaving Williams-Brice Stadium after that Georgia State game. And South Carolina, yes, they won that game by 21 points, but I don't think I've ever felt so dejected leaving a stadium after a 3-touchdown win because of the porous performance of the offensive line, because of the way that specifically stalled the offense. And I thought to myself, guys, there's no hope for this group. I mean, a veteran group that you got a bunch of guys on this roster that it's their time to shine, their time to do it. They're veteran, older guys. And the fact of the matter was they just were not very good. Just call it for what it is. If you haven't played good football in 4 or 5 years, odds are it's just not in there. Give credit to Lonnie Teasley. The offensive line wasn't elite. They didn't take some major step and pave the way, but they were just good enough down the stretch. I look at that Clemson game last year. It's a great example. South Carolina could not run the ball all that well, but when you factor in who they were going up against, one of the best defensive lines in all of college football, you were able to give Spencer Rattler enough time. Again, I'm not saying you were elite by any stretch, but you were able to do enough, and I thought that was a step in a positive direction. So I'm excited to see now, with a full offseason, Lonnie Teasley taking over the reins, working with this group. Do we see this group hit the ground running and be much better from the start than they were to start last year, and maybe even we're expecting them to start this 2023 season? Guys, we got to talk about the injury to Jalen Nichols, man. It was gut-wrenching to see Nichols go down in that spring game. Obviously, I mean, it's a spring game, man. It's a spring game, a game that he probably should not have even really been taking reps in. But Jalen Nichols, the reality is this, most likely is out for the season, and it's just, it's a scenario, that adds even more questions to a group that was already a questionable unit. Regarded as your best offensive lineman, Jalen Nichols was going to be the cornerstone of the offensive line, and most importantly, protecting Spencer Rattler's blind side. To call it anything other than a massive blow to this group, again, a group that even if Jalen Nichols is back, we'd still be looking at with, an eyebrow raised, question marks abound. Now with his injury, you just wonder. You know what I mean? Just protecting Rattler's blind side, right? You just wonder what South Carolina is going to do, having to move pieces around. We've talked to J.C. Sherbert and others about this. You're asking now guys to play different positions, to play guard, to play tackle, to play center, that they're not used to. You're asking guys to play tackle. They haven't played tackle. You're asking guys to slide to guard. They haven't played guard. And so it's not as simple as just, okay, slide here, slide there, do this. And you're having to do a lot of cross-training. You're having to rush development and building depth. How will South Carolina overcome that? As you look at this year's roster, who you have available, South Carolina was active in the transfer portal. What can South Carolina expect from its portal pickups? Those players being specifically Nick Gargiulo from Yale, Nee Manziel from Mercer, Jackson Hughes from Charlotte, and Sidney Fugar from Western Illinois. We'll start with Fugar. I mean, this is a huge season for him. Most likely the guy who's going to start for you at left tackle. That's a lot of pressure on a guy. Again, you're protecting QB1's blind side. And this isn't Western Illinois. The big question I have with this entire group, guys, is this. You already know where I'm going to go. None of these guys have taken a snap at SEC football. And you all know as well as I do, it's a different beast. It's a different animal, man. Going up against defensive linemen in the SEC, going up against these edge rushers you're going to face, it's a different beast, man. It's a different beast. So Fugar protecting Spencer Rattler's blind side. Jackson Hughes, a guy that's going to factor in. He's at worst going to be in the rotation, potentially going to be a starter at one of the guard spots. Nee Manziel from Mercer. Can he add quality depth? And then Nick Gargiulo over at Yale, a guy who has been raved about since he stepped foot on campus. Nasty, tough, leader. Those are some of the ways he's been described at this point. And, you know, you look at his resume and it's solid, man. I mean, at Yale, he helped lead Yale to leading the Ivy League in rushing yards, total offense. He was an all-Ivy League player. He was a captain on Yale's football team, which they have won. And it's a prestigious tradition. Who gets the captaincy on the uniform? So this is a dude that, you know, obviously really, really smart, bright kid. But coming from a lower level to the SEC, you know, doing it as a skill position player, there's a transition. But I don't think it's anything like what you experience on the offensive or defensive line. Because that's what this league is built on. The SEC, the Southeastern Conference, is built on the trenches and trench warfare and big, physical, athletic offensive linemen and big, physical, athletic, terrorizing defensive linemen. And so all of these guys I mentioned, Gargiulo, Manziel, Hughes, Fugar, they're going to experience something they've never experienced before. And I got to be honest with you, and this is no knock, I don't even know if there's guys on South Carolina's roster. There's a couple, but it's going to be different when you play Georgia, man. It's going to be different when you get in SEC play. The level of competition, how these guys adjust. I think there's potential in the room, but there's questions because let's call it for what it is. South Carolina didn't do what Kentucky did and got a transfer from Southern Cal, a transfer from Alabama. They didn't do that. These are lower-level guys. And we've seen it, South Carolina. Shane Beamer has knocked it out of the park when it comes to these lower-level guys stepping up and when they get here, stepping up their game. But a lot of questions in regards to transitioning to the SEC level. But from what we've heard, you think South Carolina likes their portal pickups. How much can they get out of them this season? Speaking of newcomers, we go to the freshmen. Does a freshman emerge and provide help up front for South Carolina? We all heard right about the Great Wall of Carolina. Well, it started to arrive on Carolina's campus. Trovon Bowe, Tree Babalade, and Marquis Anderson are your top three freshmen on this year's team. Of course, Marquis Anderson, a guy who participated in spring ball. Now, I'll say this. Playing freshmen on the offensive line in the SEC is not a recipe for winning. It's just simply not. Playing true freshmen, it's not a recipe for great success because, as I mentioned, it's a whole different ball game going from high school football to the SEC. And normally these guys, the position you want to be in is on a yearly basis. You got juniors and seniors on your offensive line. Now, to make that happen, you might have to thrust a guy like a Marquis Anderson in there. You might have to thrust a guy like a Trovon Bowe or a Babalade, or get these guys experience. And what South Carolina is going to experience over the next couple of years, next year or two or three, with all these O-linemen, the Cam Pringles, the Josiah Thompsons they're bringing in, they're probably going to have to go through some growing pains. They're just going to have to. It's going to pay off major dividends in 3 to 4 years. South Carolina, the way they're recruiting, they should have one of the best offensive line units in the SEC. The problem is these guys probably are not ready to play at a high level right now. But with that being said, doesn't matter. You need them to. Marquis Anderson was a guy who was raved about in spring ball. Can he fill in and emerge and maybe be a freshman all-SEC guy? We've seen it before. We've seen it at other schools. We know it's possible. It can happen. Does Trovon Bowe fill in and step up? I mean, these guys they fit the bill. You look at the size alone, they fit the bill. But that physical development, are these guys ready to be thrust into that action? Are they ready to contribute and be key contributors on that offensive front? Trovon Bowe, Tree Babalade, Marquis Anderson, 3 names you're going to get very familiar with over the next couple of years, but what type of impact can they make this year as true freshmen? Guys, we've talked a lot about Dowell Loggins, the Gamecocks offensive coordinator, and I mentioned this, excuse me, I mentioned this last year when talking about Marcus Satterfield and the questions, the storylines going into the 2023 football season, about how you knew at this time last year, more than likely, the offensive line was going to be a deficiency. And guess what? It was. It was. It was a deficiency. However, that wasn't an excuse. You've known all offseason. Find a way to scheme around it. I know that's much easier said than done. I totally get that. But it felt at times that South Carolina was still very, very stingy in the run game. They wanted to force the issue, even when we all knew that that was the weak link of the offense. Well, now it's Dowell Loggins' turn. What is he able to do? What does he do to scheme around a potential deficiency? Guys, I think it's fair to label this a question mark going into the season. Bottom line, point blank, end of story. It is. It's regarded by most as one of the worst offensive lines in the SEC. That's just the facts. Doesn't mean this offense can't be successful. Doesn't mean this offense can't score a lot of points. We talk a lot about, how is Dowell Loggins going to put Spencer Rattler in a position to be comfortable and maximize his skill set? How is Dowell Loggins going to put Juice Wells and Kerryon Joyner and Trey Knox in the best possible position to be comfortable and maximize their skill set? Well, what about the offensive line? Is Dowell Loggins able to scheme up something where he's able to make the offensive line comfortable? And maybe it's not the best group. Maybe you're relying on some guys, they've never played at the SEC level. Maybe you're relying on some guys who are true freshmen. Maybe you're relying on some guys who are seniors who have not been very good. However, you'd like to believe that if you're on this roster, you got talent. So will you have to squeeze blood out of a rock? Maybe. But is Dowell Loggins able to do that? And what do they try to do in order to take some of the pressure off of the offensive line? And finally, guys, my final top storyline when I look at this group, we saw the Jalen Nichols injury in the spring game. And I know it's forbidden to talk about that dreaded I word, but I think we have to bring it up because the question I have is this: with the physicality, we know the physicality that it takes to play offensive line in the SEC. Guys get nicked up, they get banged up, it happens. That's why depth is so important, and that's one of the reasons why there's so many question marks with this group, because depth is a concern. But my question's simply this: can this group avoid the dreaded injury bug? And it's not something where, all you can do is, Luke Day's done a fantastic job getting this team in tip-top shape, having them ready to play, but you've really just got to cross your fingers and hope. It's kind of a luck thing. You can't predict somebody falling on a guy's ankle. You can't predict somebody rolling into a guy's leg. You just can't predict it. There are certain spots on this roster that South Carolina cannot afford injuries. This is one of them. They do not have the depth to withstand 2 or 3 injuries on the offensive line. Not many teams do, by the way. But, South Carolina, their offensive line's already going to be held together by duct tape. And, it's fragile to begin with. You lose a guy or two, it's going to be really, really tough for the Gamecocks to hold this thing together and be halfway decent up front. It's somewhat of a luck thing, but you have to stay healthy. If you can do that, Lonnie Teasley, a group of newcomers, while there are question marks, I think there's reason to believe this group could surprise throughout the 2023 football season. Guys, let's jump into our first break of the day. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling here on this Tuesday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle doggy ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023. Hey, let me remind you guys, we're constantly adding new things, new products to tsus.store and or thespursupshow.com. Be sure to stay tuned. Check it out. Today, we're actually shipping out all of the tumbler orders. All of you that ordered the Beamer Ball tumblers, the cups that we're selling, we're shipping those out today. Also, we should be adding hats within the next few days. I'm staying on top of my merchandise guy. We're all busy over here, but I'm staying on top of him because I know that you all are looking forward to the release of hats, as am I as well, by the way. So anyway, stay tuned for that, guys. Really, really good stuff. With that being said, we're going to continue the conversation of Gamecocks offensive linemen. Which Gamecocks offensive lineman has the most to prove this season? And maybe the question should be, which offensive lineman doesn't have a lot to prove this season? I mean, I don't think there's one guy in this offensive line room that I look at and say, okay, he's established. He's an all-conference guy. He's all SEC. That guy was Jalen Nichols. But unfortunately, with his injury, I don't think we'll be seeing any of him this season. I know Shane Beamer has remained optimistic, and I think he doesn't want to label him out for the entire season, but more than likely, best case scenario, you see Jalen Nichols for maybe 2 or 3 games down the stretch into the season. More than likely, he will not play, though. So with that being said, the rest, who knows? 50 less starts or so, returning a group that last year was abysmal. So we've talked about experience and how it's one of those things that's overvalued in college football. You can have all the experience in the world you want. Hey, he's a 5th-year player. He's a senior. Okay, but he hadn't been very good. He's got a lot of experience at not being very good, so who gives a damn? And unfortunately, there are a lot of guys like that in this room. Point blank. There's a lot of guys in this room that have played a lot of football, that have assisted in South Carolina, not protecting their quarterback at a high level and not running the football at a high level. That being said, there is one guy that stands out to me specifically, and I'll tell you the top 2. I'll give an honorable mention here because I think Sidney Fugar has a ton to prove because of the position that he's being put in this season. I mentioned the injury of Jalen Nichols. I believe it is Sidney Fugar, the Western Illinois transfer, that is now expected to start at the left tackle position. And anytime you're tasked with protecting your quarterback's blind side, that is a huge responsibility because you first talk about the run game. I mean, of course, you need solid blocking all across your offensive line to produce a productive rushing attack. And so if you have a weakness anywhere, it will be exposed. But I look at it more importantly, the passing attack. If Spencer Rattler is not confident in his left tackle, if Spencer Rattler's not confident that Sidney Fugar, whoever it is, but most likely Sidney Fugar, can hold a block, guys, the play you call and what Dabble Loggins does, it doesn't stand a chance. That responsibility is being put on Sidney Fugar this season. That's what Sidney Fugar will be tasked with, protecting Spencer Rattler, protecting QB1. They made a movie called The Blind Side for a reason. The left tackle position is compensated the way it is in the NFL for a reason, because it's that important. But even Sidney Fugar is not my pick for most to prove. That goes to Vershawn Lee, who will be tasked with playing the center position, which will be a new move for him. He is transitioning from the guard position to the center position and filling the shoes of an Eric Douglas, who I'm not going to say was one of the best centers in the SEC. Could this be an addition by subtraction? Maybe Vershawn Lee is an upgrade. But anytime, and this comes from, offensive linemen. I love getting offensive linemen on the show, by the way, because there are so many intricacies and so many things that go into playing offensive line. It's not just as simple as, okay, line up and block. It's not that simple. There are so many different intricacies that go into playing this position. So transitioning from a guard to a center, that's a big deal. And your center is the quarterback of the offensive line. He's the one making the checks. He's the one making the calls. If he ain't got it figured out, guess what? Nobody else can figure it out. And so while Eric Douglas maybe wasn't an all-SEC caliber center, wasn't an elite player at his position, there's no guarantee that Vershawn Lee is going to be as good as he was. And for South Carolina's offensive line to take a step forward, Vershawn Lee has to be that guy. 28 games he has played in, 17 total starts. So this is a guy, as a junior, I believe, that he's got experience. This is not Vershawn Lee's first rodeo. This is not his first time through the SEC ringer. A guy who played a lot of football for you last year. Now he slides in and takes on his greatest challenge yet, playing the center position. Is Vershawn Lee ready to embrace that task and be the quarterback of the offensive line? South Carolina has no chance at success up front without him. Guys, let's jump into the break on the other side. We will keep the conversation rolling here on this Tuesday, August 8, 2023. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent you. The Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023. Tons of news rolling here on this Tuesday. Maybe the best news of all. On3 NIL has confirmed. A EA Sports spokesperson confirmed to On3 its college football franchise will return next summer. Quote, "We're looking forward to delivering it in summer 2024. They could charge $200 for that game and I would buy it. Like, really, I got a PS5 solely to get that football game. Cannot wait for it. Gonna be a blast. On that note, by the way, the season simulation series does continue. Tonight we take on Jacksonville State, a.k.a. it's probably going to be Florida Atlantic. I think that makes the most sense. Unfortunately, JSU is not in the game, but we got a huge dub last night over Texas A&M. An unlikely dub, the offense, unlikely performance, but hey, we got the job done. So be sure to tune in. They are wildly entertaining. These simulations are wildly entertaining. So be sure to check it out, guys. A lot of fun. Again, you're on YouTube right now. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you get notifications of when we go live and we drop new video content. Also, be sure to subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. We're at the Spurs Up Show there. Everything you hear on these airwaves distributed later on via podcast, 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. The podcast does drop, and I appreciate each and every single one of you who tune in. With that being said, we're going to keep it rolling. We're going to wrap up our conversation about the offensive line on today's show specifically. We'll pick it back up tomorrow. Who is the best overall offensive lineman on South Carolina's roster entering the 2023 season? This is a very, very difficult question to answer. I actually posed this question this morning to a couple of different people. And as you would expect, I got a wide range of answers. Because before his injury, Jalen Nichols, to me, was the no-brainer guy. He was the leader of the offensive line. But the reality is this. He is down and out. He will more than likely not play the entirety of this season. So, who is now that person you look to as the leader of this group? I think there are a couple you could make a case for. And there are a couple of guys that I went back and forth on. There's Vershawn Lee at the center position. Hey, he's getting that job for a reason. He's being anointed as the leader of this group, leading the way at center. You could look at a Ja'Kai Moore, who's a redshirt senior, big body dude. It's been somewhat of a mixed bag, but maybe he emerges into the leader at the right tackle position. Maybe it's a Tyshawn Wanamaker who's played a lot of football for South Carolina. And so I went back and forth this morning on it, honestly, because again, this is not an easy answer. And what I came up with is something that sort of goes against how I normally operate in these situations. Diving into the severe unknown, especially when it's a guy who has not taken a single snap at the SEC or Power 5 level. But I come back to this, and this is all due respect to Vershawn Lee, to Tyshawn Wanamaker, to Ja'Kai Moore, and all the returners from a season ago. I know what they've done. I know how they've played. And I know what it's resulted in. And the results have not been very good. There's hope and optimism in the unknown. There's hope and optimism that the unknown provides a new result. And so with that being said, my best overall offensive lineman entering the 2023 season, I am going with the Yale transfer, Nick Gargiulo. And guys, this is not your typical transfer. He was captain of Yale's football team in 2022. An honor that, look into the history of it. It's not some small feat or small task. This guy was first team all Ivy League, big body dude, by the way, 6'5", 327. He's got the SEC size, no doubt. He helped lead a group that helped Yale lead in rushing offense, total offense, and scoring in the Ivy League. And if you just look at spring practice reports, if you look at the reports coming out of South Carolina's building, you talk to people around Gamecocks football, I mean, they rave about this dude. They love this dude. Leader, nasty, tenacious, tough, physical, all of the attributes, all the things you want to hear about when you're talking about an offensive lineman. That's how people describe Nick Gargiulo. And he's made a splash since arriving on campus, no doubt. And someone that is going to start undoubtedly at one of the guard positions for South Carolina. It's not like me to anoint the best overall as someone that has never taken a snap at the SEC or Power 5 level, that has so many question marks when it comes to those things associated with it, as I just mentioned. But based off the way they've spoken about him, based off things we've heard, and based off the simple fact, guys, that again, I look at the returners from a season ago, I know what they've produced. And it hasn't been a lot. The results haven't been great. There's question marks in the unknown, undoubtedly. But there's also hope and optimism that the unknown leads to much different results than we've seen in quite some time. Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into a quick break. Hey, we're going to go ahead, dive into the Q&A Power Hour. I want to hear from you, your questions, your comments, your calls, and more on the other side of the break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge, where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Watch your Dougie, ho.
Hi, guys. We're back here on this Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023. An old school TDC is a 2-hour show is what we will do today. Of course, JC Sherbert having some technical issues today as he travels from, I believe, the great state of South Carolina back to Chicago. So we will have JC on tomorrow. We'll be double dipping with guests. We'll get JC on at 12:45. And then, of course, Chris Marler will join us for his debut show at 1:15. Going to be a lot of fun, guys. Looking forward to it. In the meantime, though, our Q&A Power Hour gets underway as we get into your questions, your comments, your calls. More 843-790-3377. Of course, guys, I'm not used to this time of day locking in for the Q&A Power Hour. So let me get this set up. We'll get it rolling. There we go. Okay. Sounds like a heartbeat, I know. This is the process. Let's see. Okay. Now we are ready. Now we're ready to take your calls, your questions, everything else as well. Let's get into the YouTube chat, the Big Cock Club Discord as well. Rowdy Rooster 75 says, my man Chris Phillips made the right choice with Nick Gargiulo. You will see. James Kendall says, my MVP of the offensive line is the absence of Lead Shoes Satterfield. Going to keep going back to that well. He says, I choose to believe the offensive line stunk because Sat was pissing all over their talent by making them do math problems at the line of scrimmage. I do like the choice, though. Nick Gargiulo is a beast in person. Met him in Charleston. Maybe it was Sat. Maybe it was. We'll see. We'll see. Ben DeRosa says, Ja'Kai Moore breakout year incoming. Cox by one says, may have to get a cigar for the Johnny Football cinema presentation tonight. Yeah. Johnny Football, Untold Johnny Football, now on Netflix. We'll be watching that later today. Really, really excited. Really looking forward to it. That's going to be an awesome, awesome documentary to tune into. Let's see. 12-4 TDC tomorrow. I do not think so. Anyways, always nice to tune in after a sim dub, Austin Gregory says. No doubt. Bruin Nation says, Doty getting reps at receiver, Sellers QB2 this season. I would ask you this, Bruin Nation. Would you really want Lenoris Sellers thrust in there as a true freshman? Like in significant, meaningful snaps? I know you're as high on him as anybody. You're drunk off that Bruin Kool-Aid, but do you really want Lenoris Sellers thrown in there as a true freshman? Ideally, I'd like to see Lenoris Sellers have some special packages, get mop-up duty, and that be it. We've seen young quarterbacks at South Carolina be anointed as the dude, and they get thrown in the fire early, and it backfires. So I would like to see Sellers be taken under Spencer Rattler's wing and just learn for a year. Learn what it takes to be an SEC quarterback. Here we go. Ethan K says, which offensive lineman is the most crucial for an effective offense? Center, tackle, or guard? That's a great question. I would say center. I think center because, as I mentioned previously, he's the quarterback of the offensive line. But, they're all important. But I'd say it's center, then tackle, then guard. But who's the second highest paid player, or sometimes even the highest paid player on an NFL roster? It's your left tackle. Because that's an invaluable piece. If you don't have your left tackle can protect your quarterback's blind side, you don't have much of a shot. You really don't. You really don't. So they're all vitally important. Let's see. Ben Rosa says, again, huge year incoming for Ja'Kai Moore. Bruin Nation, O-line is actually showing out so far in fall camp. Bruin Nation, I take all of that with a grain of salt, man. Bruin Nation, everybody's showing out at every fall camp all across the country. Am I wrong? Have you heard a coach come out and say this unit stinks, that unit stinks, we're going to go win 4 or 5 games? I mean, I would be worried if we didn't feel optimistic that we were going to be a really good football team during fall camp. Bisbee, the O-line turned a corner the last 3 games just like Rattler. They were much better. I'm not going to say it was great, but they were much, much better. I could live with that offensive line performance. We'll see. Lose 3 of 5 from that group coming into this year. Austin Gregory offensive line concerns are a tale as old as time itself for the Gamecocks. It really, really does feel that way. Braddock 843, what's going on, man? We're getting close. You're right. We're getting very, very, very close, Braddock, no doubt. Austin says, death, taxes, and sus offensive line play, having the toughest schedule, and the OC being under pressure. All of the above. Austin says Teasley's impact was certainly felt. It was. It was indeed. Austin Gregory watched the Nichols injury live. My heart fell to the floor. Yeah, that was tough. That was really tough and really, really unfortunate. I'll say this too about the offensive line. Not to jump too far ahead, and because we're going to talk a lot more about this when we talk tomorrow. Season will be successful if, and I'll give my overall grade as well. What's scary about the offensive line is this. Even if you feel really good about the starting 5, you cannot argue the fact that depth's a concern. You cannot argue the fact that quality depth is a concern. I mean, we've heard Shane Beamer and Dowell Loggins speak on it on separate occasions. Like, your head coach and your offensive coordinator, they're not bringing this up for fun. The offensive line is a major question mark, a major concern. And so, again, I just quality depth, like you normally need 7 or 8 at least offensive linemen that can rotate. I just wonder what the depth looks like. Because here's the thing. Let me play devil's advocate, by the way. I didn't do this earlier. Let me play devil's advocate with all these transfer portal guys. Because I know we're excited about Nick Gargiulo from Yale. We're excited about Jackson Hughes from Charlotte. We're excited about Nee Manziel from Mercer. We're excited about Sidney Fugar from Western Illinois. But if and when South Carolina plays those teams, the Gamecocks played Charlotte last year. Most South Carolina fans, if not all, said we should kill that team. We should crush this team. We should get a great pass rush. Their guys aren't very good. They're not nearly as good as our guys. And so now we feel like they come over and they're good enough to start for us. That's an interesting position to be in. I'll leave it at that. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
John Edward.
John Edward, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. Hey, I was going through my Twitter and I saw you put that thing out there about that UNC's number 1 wide receiver. So the waiver got denied, so he can't play the whole season, or how's that? What's going on there?
Yeah, coming from Taylor Vipolis, I believe is how you say his name. And this guy is, I guess, on the beat for, he's on the beat for UNC football at Inside Carolina. He tweeted this: major news for North Carolina. Tez Walker's waiver for immediate eligibility has been denied. UNC is trying to appeal the decision by the NCAA. This comes the day after Walker was named to the Biletnikoff Award watch list. Apparently, Mack Brown and North Carolina are hopeful with an appeal since Walker has only played at one school outside of Drake May. He's the best player on their offense. So it's not a complete done deal that he will not play, but it'd be a big loss if he can't go. Be a big, big loss if he can't go.
So that would be something along if they don't get their appeal, he wouldn't be able to play.
That's a fact.
The
Yes.
entire season.
If they don't get the appeal, he will not play. Yeah, at least the first game, which that's all I really care about. So,
we don't know why. Is it because he's been there a while, or he's trying to get an extra year?
I don't know. They didn't really specify.
Gotcha.
Here you go. Walker didn't play at NC Central because the 2020 season was canceled due to COVID, then transferred to Kent State, Mac Brown says that Walker enrolled at North Carolina under immediate eligibility rules in January, and the eligibility rule changed 2 days later. So, because they've done some shifting with the rules, how often you can transfer or whatever. So, I don't know. They're going to obviously try to fight it and get his eligibility, but that would definitely be a massive blow for sure.
No, definitely. Yeah, I saw that and was not a done deal, but if they don't, like you said, bottom line, if he can play, I'll say that he can play any game after week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so, I mean, it'd be another, it'd be a tough blow. And I mean, it's coming out everywhere. It looks like Florida State defensive tackle Darrell Jackson was denied a hardship waiver to play for the Seminoles in 2023. So, a couple of waivers are getting denied here. So a couple of guys are getting denied. But either way, I mean, it'll definitely, it'll be interesting if he can't go. Maybe it'll make it a little bit easier on South Carolina, slowing down Drake May. And so we'll talk more about it, obviously, as we get closer to the game and everything. But that'd be big if he can't play.
Definitely. All right. I'll get out of here. Go ahead and get out of here because I know it's a shorter show today. Try saying that today. I know it's a shorter show today. I had to get it out, but I'll get out here and let other people get in here. Thanks for trying to clarify that, bro.
Yeah, John Edward, you're the man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the call. Really good stuff coming over from John Edward. That'd be big. Yeah, Tez Walker cannot go. His eligibility denied. If he cannot play in that first game, very interesting. I mean, listen, they lost a lot from last year on the outside. Drake May is – I'll tell you this. Drake May is a real dude. I fully believe that. I think Drake May is a real dude, but he's got some questions on the outside. He's got some serious question marks on the outside. So if Tez Walker can't go, that's just another one. So getting back into your questions. Let's see. Scrolling through these. Jacob Altman talking about the offensive lineman. It's his culture he instills that makes these guys play out of their shoes in regards to guys coming from different levels, playing above their talent level. Maybe so. Austin Gregory points out of the 10 committed edge rushers in 2024, the Gamecocks have landed 2 of them, number 1 Stewart and number 6 Gregory. Yeah, Shane Beamer recruiting well. Austin, this time next month, we will be 2-0, ranked top 20 in the country. Love to hear it. I agree. Yeah. I mean, I've got South Carolina beating North Carolina. I had it back in July. I don't know that much has really changed to sway that. TaylorMade says, Doty isn't a SEC wide receiver, Chris. TaylorMade, I'll say this. You're probably right. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you that he is, but here's a little secret. Was DeCarrion Joyner a SEC wide receiver? I wouldn't say so. Not like a starting guy. He was a depth filler. He was in the room, but they did everything they could to get DeCarrion Joyner in a position to be on the field and make some sort of impact. Now it's finally led to running back, which we hope and think is the natural fit. But I mean, for Luke Doty, it's just he's not going to play at QB2. He's not going to play. Like, he's got a skill set. He's got athleticism. Maybe find a way to use it. I'm at least happy to see he's getting an opportunity to use his skill set because, again, I look at Luke Doty very similarly to how we look at DeCarrion Joyner. I mean, Luke Doty's Dak Joyner without the Duke's Mayo Bowl. That's all he is. It's kind of the same, a very similar career path. Except Luke Doty also has stayed at quarterback. That's it. But both guys have changed positions. Both guys, it hasn't worked at quarterback for them. And both guys have skill sets that can help you win. But they're very similar. So I'm just happy to see Luke Doty getting a shot to do something somewhere else on the football field. Brian Dean, we know offensively UNC is going to move the ball, and defensively they're not very good. I'm not sold on Gene Chizik as a defensive coordinator. With that being said, USC 31, UNC 13. So, Brian Dean, you think UNC is going to move the ball, but they're going to score 13 points. If South Carolina's defense holds UNC to 13 points, there's a lot of reason to be excited if you're a Gamecock fan, for sure. Jimmy Mendillo just says, I like Cigar. I like Cigar too, man. I like cigar too. Cody Gaskin says, week 3, we're storming the field. I hear you, Cody. I hear you, man. From your lips to God's ears. Ghostasm says, you think we'll see any double passes or trickery with having 2 highly rated dual threat quarterbacks in the backfield? Yeah, I think potentially so. I mean, I don't think we're going to make a living off trick plays, but yeah, I think definitely you're going to see South Carolina be creative. Absolutely. I think you're going to see the Gamecocks absolutely be creative this season. Yeah, whatever it takes to move the football. So, Rowdy Rooster, don't forget Nick Gargiulo can play all 5 positions. Yeah, I mean, he says he's got it all: size, hip placement, hands, physicality, smarts, and finish. Can play all 5 positions. Was a co-recipient of 2023 Spring Toughness Award as well. Yeah, sounds like he's the leader up front. Spur Daddy says, I say Gamecocks beat North Carolina 42-28, and I agree with Austin. 2-0 top 20 team heading to Athens to play the Bulldogs. I'd put a lot of emphasis on that game in Athens. Madison says, I'm looking forward to the call-in show after game 1. Do you have a name for the show? The Spurs Up Show call-in show. Cock-a-doodle-doo call-in. Cox Corner call-in show or Gamecocks end game call-in. My 2 cents. Madison, it's probably just going to be the Spurs Up Show post-game call-in show. That's just keep it simple. You know what I mean? Keep it simple. Jonathan Lee, Chris, any news on grad transfer DN? I know buzz early in June, July. I don't see Jonathan South Carolina adding anybody. I think who you got right now. I mean, it's fall camp has literally begun, man. The time to add grad transfers in the portal, I think that time, Jonathan, has passed. So I don't think they'll be adding anything else, anybody else. Let's see. Lynn Turner. We have destroyed many a freshman quarterback, throwing them into the fire. I agree. And again, it's because you care about Lenora Sellers if you're saying that. Like, I'd love to see Lenora Sellers evolve and grow into QB1 at South Carolina and a great player, but the way not to do that is to destroy his confidence early on by thrusting him in the fire too early. That's all I'm saying. Travis says, prove it game 1. Yeah, it's a lot to prove. There's a lot to prove. Hunter Herlong says, they also haven't put on pads. Hunter, that is a great point. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And that's I'm not trying to put my guy Bruin Nation on blast, but yeah, if you're hearing people say, man, the offensive line's looking really good, it's like, bro, they have not even put on full pads yet. Like, they're not even, jobs aren't being won yet. There's nothing to take away until those pads go on. There's nothing to take away. So, Jaden Brown says, I want to see Tanner Bailey. Tanner Bailey. Okay. A Tanner Bailey sighting would be interesting. Jeff Gullich says, I know it's just a sim game, but if our defense plays like that this season, we're definitely winning 7 games at least. The simulation's awesome. Chris Miller, what do you have over under passing yards, touchdowns, and INTs for Rattler? I say 31 touchdowns, 11 picks, 29 at 50 yards. Chris, I think Rattler hits 3,000. He hit 3,000 last year, and the offense was terrible. I look at Rattler. This is a rough guess. I see Spencer Rattler at 3,250 passing yards. I'll say 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's what I've got for Rattler this year. I think he's better. I think he's still Rattler, but I think he's better. Austin Gregory, better hop on the Gamecocks +3 before the line moves. Yeah, indeed. Carter Bingham says, where is Robbie Davis? I have no idea. I have no clue. Steven, which DB has the most INTs this year? I'm going DQ Smith. I'm going to go DQ Smith. John Ever, when do they put on the pads? I would assume in the next couple of days. So, Ruination, just repeating stuff Hale was saying. Got you. All good. I'm just saying that when they don't have pads on, man, like, how much can you really do? You know what I mean? How much can you really do? Rowdy Rooster, top 3 favorite Gamecocks of all time. Off topic, I had to ask. Top 3 favorite Gamecocks, not a specific sport. Connor Shaw, Justin Smoke, and Ronaldo Balkman. I'll touch on all the big 3 sports here. Austin Gregory, if you could have an exclusive interview with one player on the team, who would it be and why? It's got to be Spencer Rattler, Austin, because no player on this team moves the needle as much as QB1. Bottom line. Madison, will there be any more press conferences with Beamer and the train before kickoff? I know that the first coach's call-in show is going to take place not next week, but the following Wednesday. That Wednesday, August the 23rd, I believe. There's going to be a call-in show, a Shane Beamer call-in show that night at 6 o'clock. I don't know if there's another Shane Beamer pressure. I'd have to look. I don't know. Chris Miller, do you think South Carolina will be favored over UNC by kickoff? I'm thinking we end up -1.5. Chris, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I mean, if anything, dude, the line has gone from UNC at 1.5 to 3. The amount of money that would have to come in on South Carolina to sway that back is significant. Like, significant. So, no, I don't think South Carolina's favored by kickoff. I could see it getting much closer to a pick 'em. But, I mean, dude, UNC's been the favorite from the jump. I don't know what would make that sway back in the other direction. I really don't. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. Austin Gregory, not sure if you've been following basketball much lately. My realistic goal for us this year is to not finish last in the SEC. Curious what your goals are for this year's team. You know, I said it yesterday, Austin. I mean, not finish last would be great. I would say compete to make the NIT. I think that's realistic, man. I think that's realistic. Steven, if you could bring back one player from the season from the 2009-12 era, who would you bring back? I would definitely go Marcus Lattimore. I would agree, yep. I would say Lattimore just because of what this team needs. If this team had an elite running back, I mean, all of a sudden, possibilities are opened up. Guys, in case you missed it, you're tuned in, you're wondering what the heck's going on. No J.C. Sherbert today. J.C. had some technical issues. He will join us tomorrow. We will double dip with the guests. We'll have J.C. on at 12:45. Then Chris Marler at 1:15. So it's going to be a lot of fun, a jam-packed show, and I'm looking forward to it. Patton Robertson, do you think Nick will get significant reps early? I think there's a good chance. I do think there's a good chance he will get significant reps early. I think the reps, though, will increase as we go through the season. But I think they want to get the football in Nick Harbor's hands. I think there's no question. Guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, I want to continue to hear from you. More for questions, comments, calls, and more. You're tuned in to The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. The Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Tuesday, August the 8th, 2023. I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Really exciting stuff early in this week as we sit 25 days away from South Carolina, North Carolina. Guys, cannot wait. Looking forward to it. As I've mentioned to you all before, I love doing, obviously, the preseason content, the position unit preview series, the breakdowns, the predictions, all that stuff. But I cannot wait for game week. And I also can't wait for game week because we've started to plan the content that we will produce during game week, and it's going to be electric, man. It's going to be the biggest and best content we've ever done with the restructuring a TDC. We're going to be able to get to more than we ever have, do more than we ever have, talk about more than we ever have. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. Jimmy Mendigo says, are you going to Charlotte for the game? I am not, Jimmy. I'm not going to Charlotte for the game or any game this season for that matter. Because, number one, I will be in studio covering the game, creating content, shooting video, halftime update, post-game, all that good stuff. And then immediately following that game and every single game, we are operating the Spurs Up Show post-game call-in show from right here as we take your questions, comments, calls after every single South Carolina football game. And guys, I cannot wait. It is going to be absolutely electric. The numbers, I think the numbers are going to be wild because everybody wants to go somewhere to get their thoughts, their feelings, voice their opinions, celebrate, what have you. And so it's going to be a blast, man. Going to be great for content as well. I'm looking forward to it, because all we have right now is 107.5 The Game and what they do. And number one, there's tons of ads and it's very filtered. This is going to be a completely unfiltered, raw, unedited, just go. Like the whole point of the show is not really even me giving my takeaways, just letting you guys call in and just have at it, man. And I'll react to whatever y'all have to say. So it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a lot of fun. But no, Jimmy, I will not be at that game or any game this season. I've mentioned this before, man. I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm looking forward to it. Going to the games has been a lot of fun. The tailgate's been a blast, selling merchandise. But, I'm to a point now, we've got people who are going to be selling our merchandise on hand at every single home football game this season. So the merch is taken care of. The only other purpose of a tailgate would be, I guess, just to meet and greet and shake hands and conversate and what have you, which is awesome, but not necessary. And then being in stadium for the game, guys, when you do what I do and you're not just watching the game, drinking beers, going crazy, like you're trying to give in-game analysis and opinions and give different views of the ball game, there is literally no advantage to being in stadium. I'd actually say it's a disadvantage, truly, my honest opinion. It's a disadvantage for what I do. So with that being said, we will not be in stadium. We will not be, in Charlotte or Columbia, whatever, but we will be in the Big Cock Club Discord, hanging out, operating, going to be a fantastic time. I'll be more involved with the Discord than I have ever been previously. And I'll be able to, guys, I'm so excited for week one. I'm so excited to wake up. I've already pictured it in my mind. That first Saturday, Carolina kicks off 7:30 in Charlotte. Wake up that Saturday. It's at 7 a.m. Make my coffee. Go upstairs to the studio. Sit down. Grab the remote. Cut on the TV. Enjoy college game day. And watch college football all day long. I can't wait for it, guys. I grew up watching college football that way with my grandfather. We didn't go to a ton of games. We went to a few, but we didn't go to a ton. But I would go to my grandfather's and get there early in the morning and watch college game day. And again, we would watch the noon game, the 3:30 game, the 7 game, the 7:30. I didn't even watch the Pac-12 game, the 10:30 game. Of course, we'd watch South Carolina whenever they fell in that schedule. But I can't wait, man. And obviously, guys, I'm leaning into much more SEC content, all-encompassing content for the SEC. Much more of that than I ever had before. And we're going to talk more SEC than I ever had before. So I'm excited to not just watch South Carolina, but watch all of the SEC games as well. And yes, I see you, Brendan. Will Seafield be more involved in the Discord than he is during TDC? That's the question. Ha, ha, ha. Yes, Brendan. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You'll get a full dose of my slapdickery every single Saturday in the Big Cock Club Discord. Going to be a lot of fun. Cox by One says, how long will the post-game call-in show be? Some folks may need 10 hours of therapy. I'll tell you this, Cox by One. I'm planning on not going longer than an hour. I think an hour is plenty. Honestly, an hour might be a little bit much. I think 30 minutes we can knock it out. If we need an hour, I'll take it this, Cox by One. That's really going to be determined by what the audience is like. It's going to determine, the audience is going to determine that. If we just got calls rolling in, hey, we'll keep it rolling for an hour. If we need more, God forbid, maybe we'll go more. But it'll be determined off just what the audience is like. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Hunter.
Hunter, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, man. What about you?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. I appreciate you asking. What's going on?
Yeah, so I have a question. So what do
Yeah.
you think about Kentucky? How do you think they're going to do this year? Because I know a lot of people saying, like, obviously they're probably joking around and stuff on social media about Kentucky and all. And they think that sometimes I can't tell if they're serious or not because the way Kentucky played last year and lose to Vandy. And they actually think they're champion contenders. So I wanted to get your thought on that.
Yeah, Hunter, it's a good question. I would not call Kentucky a SEC East contender by any means, but I'm high on Kentucky, and I know some folks don't like to hear me say that, but I'm high on Kentucky. I am. I think Kentucky, with the return of Leon Cohen at OC, Devin Leary at the quarterback position, they improved the offensive line through the transfer portal, picking up guys from Alabama, Southern Cal, amongst a host of others. And you believe they will be better on the offensive front because that's been the staple under Mark Stoops. They've been physical, both offensively and defensively. Their wide receiver room is the best they've maybe ever had, with Berry and Brown and Dane Key leading the way. Both guys were fantastic last year. So I think there's a lot of reason to believe that they're going to be much, much better on the offensive side than defensively. I think it's just going to be smash mouth Kentucky. I mean, they've got Octavius Oxendine up front and in the interior there. They feel good about that. They've got some questions on the defensive side for sure, but I think Kentucky's going to improve. And I mean, here's the thing. The offensive line was abysmal when they won 7 games last year, and they lost to Vanderbilt. So I think Kentucky, I think they're an 8-win, maybe a 9-win team. I really believe they're right there in that middle of the pack with South Carolina, Kentucky. You want to throw Tennessee in there, although I think they're kind of solidified in that number 2 spot. But Tennessee, Missouri as well. I think they're one of those middle of the pack teams that, could go 6-6, could go 9-3, but I put Kentucky at the more likely winning 8 or 9 games this year. I really believe that the combo of Leary and Cohen, I believe in that duo. And, I think Kentucky is going to be much improved in the offensive line. I think that's going to lead to much better results. And, dude, also their schedule sets up beautifully. They're going to start 4-0, most likely 5-0. Like they're going to be in the best possible position of all the teams I've mentioned, of Carolina, Mizzou, Tennessee, and then Kentucky. Their schedule probably shakes out the best to win 8 or 9 games of all those teams. So, unfortunately, Hunter, I do think Kentucky's going to be solid this year.
Plus we got the advantage. They're coming to our house, so we definitely got the advantage on that part.
And I've got South Carolina beating Kentucky. I've actually got Kentucky going 8-4, but I've got South Carolina beating Kentucky at home, going 7-5, 4-4 in SEC play, so finishing ahead of Kentucky. But I'd say this: I think Kentucky's going to be a good team. I understand Vanderbilt got them, all that, whatever. But this, to the angst of Gamecock Nation, this is not the Kentucky of old, man. Mark Stoops has done an incredible job there. This is not a Kentucky program I think is going to go away. I think Kentucky football, it's not old school Kentucky football. They're a good program. They are a good program, a good team. And I know that's maddening for Gamecock fans, but it's something you have to accept.
Yeah, no, you made a good point on that. Yeah. That's all I needed, man. I appreciate it.
Hunter, I appreciate the call, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't look at Kentucky as an SEC East contender, man. I think Georgia's just – I think they're head and shoulders by everybody else. And I know, our guy Cody Gaskins, we were having and I like we both like the back and forth and what have you. We like the banter, if you will. But Cody Gaskins is convinced that South Carolina is beating Georgia in week 3. And, listen, man, I got to see it, man. I understand that 2019 happened. But 2019 was a miracle, man. It was a flat-out miracle. So you're banking on a miracle. You're banking on another miracle to happen for South Carolina to go beat them. I don't see it, man. I don't see it. Georgia won that game last year 48-7. It could have been 68-7. Could have been 88-7. It wasn't even a competitive game. It was embarrassing. It was an embarrassment at Willie B. I got to see South Carolina compete with Georgia. I got to see South Carolina make it a fourth quarter game before I say they're going to win the game. And you guys know my prediction. I've already been very blunt about it. I think 41-10. I don't think it's a question of can South going to win. I think it's a question of how many times does South Carolina cross the 50. I just don't. I don't think South Carolina's there in the trenches, guys, to give Georgia a fit. I really don't. I really don't. So I guess I'll be the doom and gloom slapdick Gamecock, but I also might be the right Gamecock. I don't know. We'll see. And the other thing is this too. I've given South Carolina over the last couple of years way too much credit going into that Georgia game. I picked last year I picked 38-24 or something like that, or a nice close back and forth ball game. Until I see it, this game is a blowout until proven otherwise. That's it. It's a blowout until I see different. So. Austin Gregory says, I wagered $100 on South Carolina plus 30 at UGA. Chris proceeded to pick Georgia to win by 31. Austin, where are you getting Carolina plus 30 at right now? Where are you getting that plus 30 at? That's a hell of a spread if that's a real spread right now. Austin Gregory, Kentucky's O-line was worse than ours last year. You're high on theirs, low on ours. Our portal additions were similar. Why the stark difference? They brought in 2 3-star interior offensive linemen, and that's it. Yeah, Austin, they brought in 2 guys from Southern Cal and Alabama. Also, Austin, you know why they get the benefit of the doubt? Because that was a one-off in an otherwise strong unit for Mark Stoops. They're traditionally very good on the offensive line. Like, very good. Time and time again. They run the football. They're smash mouth. They punch it up. That's why they've beaten the Gamecocks. They've won at the point of attack. They had one bad year on the offensive line, and they added a pair of Power 5 guys up front. I like their portal additions more. And again, I think Mark Stoops, his track record, that gives me more reason to believe they get the offensive line fixed. Simple as that. Simple as that, my guy. It's simple as that. Grant Neesmith says, you may have talked about this already. I just jumped in. What are your thoughts about UNC star transfer receiver Tez Walker being ruled ineligible? That's a huge loss. I mean, that's a major loss for UNC, man, because obviously Drake May, Drake May losing a couple of his top weapons from last year. That's a big loss for them. That's a big loss for them for sure. Yeah, we'll talk more about it in depth. I think what happened is they're trying to cut down on the transfers and stuff. So guys, if you transfer, to a third school, you got to sit out. Like, you're not eligible. So, but it sounds like he transferred right before that rule was made. I don't know. We'll see if they, if they get it fixed or turned in their favor or whatever. But that'd be a big loss. That'd be a big loss. Austin Gregory, they say home field advantage is worth 3 points in betting. Do you think UNC -3 as a result of the game being played in Charlotte? I think it's a neutral site. I think they're labeling that, Austin, as a neutral site. I mean, dude, there's probably going to be more Gamecocks than there are North Carolina fans. I know they split the tickets 50-50, but I think there's going to be a lot of South Carolina people at that game. So, no, I don't think they factor that as a home game for North Carolina. I don't think so. Taylor May, don't sleep on Georgia having to travel to Knoxville. That'll be an interesting game. Yeah, for sure. The 2 games on Georgia's schedule that give me pause, at Auburn and at Tennessee. I think Ole Miss could be a weird game. I don't think Ole Miss will win, but it could be a weird game. Madison says, I can't wait for the call-in show. New format, new outlet. It's what we needed for a great fan base. Finally. Glad you were at the helm. Hey, Madison, I appreciate you. I can't wait either. It's going to be a good time. Where's the merch tent going to be, Jimmy? I will let you all know. Trust me. I will let you all know. Austin Gregory, I don't know how they split the tickets. I don't know if they just allot a certain number to each fan base. Austin, I have no idea. But I'm sure they do. Yeah. Austin Miller, the stadium's 30 minutes closer to the Gamecocks in North Carolina. Yeah, that's the interesting part, right? It's actually closer to South Carolina than it is in North Carolina. So If it's a home game for anybody, it's probably a home game for Carolina. Has anybody watched Untold Johnny Football yet? Anybody watched that yet? I am very excited. I think we're going to watch it in the Big Cock Club Discord later today. So very excited for it. Looking forward to it. And then next week, I believe it's next week. I think the 15th or the 22nd. I think it's the 15th, though. We get Swamp Kings. I think next week is when we get Swamp Kings. So, or is that the 22nd? I can't remember. I cannot remember. Yes, everybody reacting to the Tez Walker news. We have seen it. Cox by one. I promise not to bug you. If QB1 drops in Garnet, let me know. Cox by one. I'm all over my merch guy. I'm all over him. So doing the very best I can to get him to upload these products. And, you know, he's busy, but I'm all over him. Trust me. I'm reminding him every single day about this merch. Jacob Altman, which game would you rather have this year, Florida or Mizzou? I'm going to go Florida. Jacob, I know people are going to disagree, but here's the thing. We lost to Mizzou last year and had a good season. If you lose to Mizzou on the road this year, you can still win 7 games. You lose to Florida at home, a trash Florida team, a Florida team that's probably not going to be very good. I don't know how you overcome that. A home loss to Florida. I don't know, man. CCM, should we bring back the gray uniforms? I say no. I'm out on the gray unis. I'm not a big fan of the gray unis. Austin Lewis, it's on Netflix, the Johnny Manziel thing. So let's see. Brandon Marcello upset at the decision. Upset at the decision to deny Tez Walker. It'll be interesting to see if they can get that reversed. Really, truly. Guys, cannot wait. Cannot wait for kickoff. Looking forward to it. Gamecock Fanatic, guess the uniform for week 1. I believe South Carolina's the home team, yes? If that's the case, we're going to go black, garnet. There's no way we don't. There's no way South Carolina will not go black, garnet. I think even if they're not the home team, man, why not? Why don't they do what they did back in the Duke's Mayo Bowl and both teams wear their home uniforms? I think that would be cool. I think that would be very cool. But I think it's going to be black, garnet. I do. Assuming Carolina is the home team. I think Carolina is the home team. I believe that's the case. So it feels weird, guys, doing a 2-hour TDC. I've gotten so used to the 3 hours. 2 hours honestly feels short, which is crazy to say, but it really does feel short. So in case you missed it, guys, of course, no J.C. Sherwood in the second hour. We're going to close this thing up at 2 o'clock. Tomorrow, we'll double dip with guests J.C. Sherwood at 12:45 and Chris Marler at 1:15. Looking forward to it. Going to be a lot of fun, a jam-packed show, and appreciate you guys rolling with the punches. Rebecca says, how many days till football? 25. 25 days, Rebecca, till football. Robbie Davis, so ready for Gamecocks football. Beamer ball to the moon. Beamer ball to the moon, indeed, Robbie. I'm excited, man. Like I said, I love doing the preseason content, the position unit previews. It's a lot of fun for sure, and it's even more fun this year because of the way we're doing content now. You know, before I look back and my goodness, how inefficient we were with content in regards to doing the podcast separate. Like it isn't all one thing. We'd come on TDC, no plan, no script, no notes, no nothing. And I kind of felt like we were kind of just sitting here staring at each other, just like, okay, like, what do we talk about now? What do we talk about now? So, we're doing a much better job in regards to providing valuable content and information and more entertaining content in lieu of that, in light of that. But I cannot wait for kickoff, man. Getting to game week, it's going to be so much fun. The hype, the anticipation, I mean, it's going to be just electric. So can't wait. Cannot wait for it. Guys, 843-790-3377. The phone lines are still open, 843-790-3377. You're more than welcome to call in. We'd love to hear from you, your thoughts, everything. A very busy day. We've got fall camp intel. We got Tez Walker being denied by the NCAA. UNC taking a hit. Game day quickly approaching. South Carolina, North Carolina in Charlotte very soon. Cannot wait. Guys, we're going to jump into one final break. On the other side, we'll close out the show in style, taking your questions, comments, calls, and more. You're tuned in to The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Final 10 minutes or so here on this Tuesday. Taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. Again, guys, let me say this. Thank you all so much for rolling with the punches and being understanding. Obviously, of course, having the change of schedule today with JC Sherbert. He will now join the show tomorrow. Again, I really do mean that and appreciate that you guys are willing to, not or just, again, roll with the punches and be understanding that things sometimes happen and we have to, call an audible, if you will. But excited to talk with JC tomorrow. Obviously, a lot to dive into, a lot to discuss. And then Chris Marler making his debut on TDC as well. I'm going to give our guy Austin Gregory a little bit of grief here because I was just thinking about this during the break, how funny it was that basically he was begging me for mercy when it comes to the offensive line. Talking about show the big uglies some love. It's easy to be critical. Everybody who covers us is being critical. Let's focus on the positives. The only thing I promise to be is fair. And by the way, Austin, I know where you were coming from. I know where you were coming from. But the only thing I ever promise to be is fair. I'm not going to be someone I don't, and but that message made it feel like I'm mean or I'm overly negative or I'm overly mean to the position group. So am I mean? Do y'all feel like I'm mean? Am I overly harsh? I mean, I really just try to be fair. I'm not going to sunshine pump and look at it with garnet glasses and blow smoke up your ass. But I'm also not going to take unnecessary shots. I'm not going to, bury a group or bury the team or be unfair in that manner by being overly negative and overly pessimistic. I do my very best to be fair. To be fair, that's it. And as I've mentioned before, I think I'd be insulting your intelligence if I was not fair to you. If I felt like, I don't want their feelings to get hurt. Let me bump this up a grade or two so that they don't get their feathers ruffled. You guys can handle. Our audience can handle, critical analysis and banter and discussion. And so that's the thing. I'll say this. That's the thing you have to recognize. And I know Luke RJ raised an eyebrow at the tight end grades. Guys, this is a grading scale comparing you with all your peers in the SEC, where an A is truly an A. A is elite. A is an elite. Okay? It's elite. F is bottom of the barrel. But a 1's really a 1 and a 10 is really a 10. Not everybody gets a 10. Not everybody gets a 9. You see what I'm saying? So it's not everybody gets an A. Very few get an A. B is still pretty damn good. C+. So when I gave the tight ends a C+, I wasn't saying they were horrific. They're middle of the pack. They're middle of the pack. I mean, it's so you got to understand, when the grades are happening, we're grading on a true A through F scale. We're not grading on the worst unit in the SEC is a C. No, we're not doing that. That's not how we operate. It's not how we operate. Austin said, I just wanted to know what could be the strengths. We all know the weaknesses. Everyone points them out. Wasn't saying you were mean. I know. Just wanted a different perspective than what we had been. I feel like I tried to provide that also. I feel like I try to provide that with all these. I mean, I've mentioned many times with every position group that this is a group that could finish above its ranking. There's talent. There's potential. We talk Nick Gargiulo. We talk about, some new blood being in the room. I mean, so you tell me. You tell me. Again, I just do my very best to keep it fair and call it as I see it. And obviously, again, not sugarcoat it. But Austin Gregory didn't want you to say they're going to be something they're not. Just wanted to hear what it could What could we hang our hats on with this group? I hear you, Spur Daddy. Thanks, Chris, for not sugarcoating things. Tell us the facts and let the boys go play, and then we'll see. Yeah, for sure. Travis Allen, late today, been under the weather. Hope everyone has a great day. Travis, I hope you feel better, my friend. Great to see you and hear from you. Yeah, and again, we'll get into this more tomorrow, but I would say this. The reality of the offensive line is it's a group, and you can look at this two different ways, by the way. You can look at it two different ways because this is a group that returns exactly 47 less starts. Excuse me, actually, how many? Let's see. 86 starts back this year. You had 132, I think, back. Okay, whatever. Just under 50. Either way, you can look at it one of two ways. This offensive line unit returns around 50 less starts than it had a season ago. Now, there are two different ways to look at that. You can say, man, we returned 50 less starts from a group that gave up 31 sacks and finished outside of the top 100 in rushing offense. We're going to be even worse. Or you can look at it as South Carolina returns just under 50 less starts from a season ago. Maybe some new blood in the room helps this group produce results much better than last year. Maybe there's some addition by subtraction, with all due respect to some of those other guys who left. So there are multiple ways to look at it. Which way will be correct, we shall see. But there are multiple ways to look at that. Just because you have less starts back doesn't mean or define you're going to be worse in this season. So there you go, Austin. There's your perspective. So I think there's multiple ways to look at it. I really do. Maybe Nick Gargiulo's all SEC. Maybe Jackson Hughes is much better than we anticipate. Maybe maybe so. Maybe so. CCM, Chris, you're going to have to find some joy. I hear you. Brennan M in our Discord, that's his response to literally everything. I wouldn't be surprised if Brennan M sits at work and his boss says, hey, Brendan, do this. This wasn't good enough. He says, find some joy. You know what I mean? That would not shock me, to be honest with you. It would not shock me. Brendan M is the king of find some joy. That's all that man does is find joy. I don't know if there's a more joyous Gamecock fan than Brennan M. Full of joy. Guys, what a show today, man. What a show. This show flew. Like I told you, we've been doing 3-hour TDCs for a little bit now. This 2-hour TDC just flew by. Flew by. So, again, I appreciate you guys rolling with the punches. Tomorrow's show will be jam-packed with J.C. Sherbert at 12:45, Chris Marler at 1:15. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Double dipping with the guests. And, of course, Mark Ryan on Thursday, Jake Crane on Friday. And we continue along with the position unit preview series. Going to be a lot of fun for sure. Rebecca, what's going on? Appreciate you tuning in, Rebecca. What's up? Read my comment. Rebecca, what is your comment? Did I miss it? Your comment is, Rebecca says, Chris, are you coming to the South Carolina-Tennessee game in Knoxville? I am not. Rebecca. I talked earlier. I am not. We'll be creating content covering the games from inside the studio, and then, of course, hosting our post-game call-in show. KFC in Africa. If we don't have Rattler under center, he can find targets in 2 to 3 seconds, and then it will take away from the O-line issues. KFC, that's a great point. And again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Is Dowell Loggins able to scheme around it? That's the big question. Can he scheme around it? Offensive line, even if it's better than we anticipate, it's not going to be great. And there's going to be times where the offensive line just doesn't have a good game. How is South Carolina able to maintain offensive production while being deficient up front? That's the question. Guys, we've hit 2 o'clock. Hey, thank y'all so much, man. Appreciate y'all. Be sure hit that subscribe button on YouTube, the bell icon, so you get notifications when we drop video content, whether it be live video, other video. Be sure to do that. Also, hit the subscribe button on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us there at the Spurs Up Show. We drop daily podcasts Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Guys, in the meantime, hey, appreciate you all. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.